What up, people? How is everybody today? Question: Are you broke? Are you struggling with being broke? Have you been trying to figure out ways to dig yourself out of that debt pile? Right, the credit card is stacking up, student loans are all over the place. Maybe you have a mortgage or two, car notes. Well, today I got a special guest, and you actually met this guest before, but today we are having a special guest, Tiffany Grant, aka Money with T, Money with Tiff. She's a blogger, podcaster, financial education, and a money coach. So today we're going to talk all about how she was able to get almost out of that six-figure debt, though. Like, this isn't a little bit of debt we're talking about. We're talking about big, big, big numbers. All right. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Tiffany Grant. Hey, Tiff, how you doing? Uh-oh. Oops. Technical difficulty there.
You're fine. How's it going?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good.
Now, did I get your intro right?
Yeah, for the most part.
All right, so listen, everybody, welcome to the Finance Roll Show. Y'all know every Wednesday we love to talk about money. We love to answer your money questions live, save them a little towards the end. As I said earlier, we're going to talk to Tiffany Grant. Now, Tiffany has over six figures, right? I know everybody's trying to get to six figures in income. Tiffany's got over six figures in debt, or had almost six figures plus in debt. And she's been knocking it out. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. So I figured tonight will be a great time to talk about it. We're about to go into the holiday season. People like to start buying things, junk, stuff that they don't need to kind of make people happy that don't even really care about it. But I thought it was timely we talk about it. So, Tiff, tell us all about yourself. You had six figures in debt, 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
get there?
Yeah. So when you say it like that, it's like, well, dang. But yes, I started this journey back in January of 2018. So that's when I started the whole, I want to be debt free by 30, this, that, and the other. And at the time, it wasn't even as much. It wasn't six figures just yet. It was maybe like 60,000 or so.
Mhm.
And I, was on track. I was doing my thing. I was getting paid down. I think I had knocked down like 50,000 in like less than 2 years. And then I kind of got off track. I kind of lost focus, lost sight of my goal, and started accumulating debt versus paying it off. And so that's how I ended up getting to that six-figure number. So now when I look at it, I have about 80,000 left. But when I look back, I'm like, well, I've already paid about, 50, 60,000. So I'm like, I can do this. Like, this is totally doable.
And you paid 60,000 over what time frame? A year, 2 years, a week? Did you hit the
So
lottery? Like, how
I
did you do that?
wish.
A lot of people are like, I'm struggling, I can't figure it out.
Well, I will say the biggest thing for me was being intentional, right? So when I first started on the journey, I was just like gung ho. Like, if people was like, Tiffany, you want to go out? No. Tiffany, you want to do this? No. I'm like, if it doesn't fit into me either making money or paying off some of this debt, I don't want to do it. And so I was very, very focused on getting that debt paid off. And that's how I was able to do the first 50,000 or so in like almost in less than 2 years, like a little less than 2 years. And I was just like, I was hustling. I was doing Uber and Lyft. I was doing other side hustles. I had picked up a second job while I'm in school full time. Like, I was just on straight hustle mode. And that's how I was able to do it. Cause I mean, my jobs were only paying like $11, $12 an hour. So it wasn't really that much, but I was supplementing with side hustle income. So the 11 $12 my first job, that was sustaining us as far as the bills were being paid, and then everything else was just going straight to debt. And so that's how I was able to kind of pay that portion off as fast as I did. And then I kind of, you start getting comfortable. And so I wasn't going as hard. So then my debt payoff velocity wasn't as much as it was. And
Mhm.
so I was paying off, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And so that's how I did the extra like 10,000 or so.
I mean, but I mean, I have a million questions floating through my head. When you told your friends no, I can't do that. I'm not gonna be able to do it. What was the pushback like? Or was there any pushback? Were folks
Um,
cheerleading for you? Like, yeah, she's trying to pay her debt off.
Well, I mean, honestly, my friends know how I am. So they know, like, once I get my mindset on something, that's it. Like, there's no convincing me otherwise. And my family is the same way. Like, everybody knows this is like my personality. And so when I'm saying no to going out and stuff like that, it wasn't really surprising because, I mean, first of all, I don't really go out like that anyway. And even I am a nerd and I am a homebody for the most part. And so if it's not networking or something that's going to make me money or something, it's just, for me, it's just pointless. So anyway, with my friends, if I would say no to different things or like going on vacation or whatever, girls' trips or whatever, they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. Now, maybe they might have talked about me behind my back. Who knows? But who cares, right? At the end of the day, I'm going to do what makes sense for me and my family. At the end of the day, nobody else is in my pockets but me. And so I have to do the best decision for me and my kids. And so that's what takes priority, in my opinion.
Got you. Now, are you that friend and all your other friends will make plans and just won't tell you about?
No, because even when, like, they would always ask, they would always ask if I wanted to do something, even if they knew the answer was going to be no, they would still ask. Because sometimes, don't get me wrong, I would pop out occasionally, and then they would be like, okay, Tiffany coming down, da, da, da. But yeah, it's never like they'll make plans and not include me now. We usually all just try, even if we know somebody's going to say no, we still try to include them.
See, you got good friends. See, I got friends. They like, come on, I ain't going. I ain't even gonna
We ain't
ask.
even
I ain't gonna ask. So it's all good. It's all
But
good.
see, now, full disclosure, I only have like a good 3 or 4. So this is a
Nah,
small pool of
I got
friends that
you.
I'm talking about.
I got you. I got you. So, side hustles, part-time jobs. You had a full-time job as well,
So
or multiple part-time jobs?
So pretty okay. So I was working at a thrift store at the time. That was my main job. And I was getting between 36 to 40 hours a week. It would depend because of course it's retail. So it was considered full time in that regard, but I wasn't getting always getting 40 hours a week. And so the other one was actually a seasonal part-time at actually David's Bridal, which is so not my speed.
And that was
But
fun. I'm sure that was fun.
I am so not a girly girl, and it was just, for me, it was very interesting. But anyway, it was at David's Bridal, and that was part-time. So that was part-time seasonal. And that was the only point in my life where I had 2 jobs, like real jobs, not just side hustles, going simultaneously.
Okay. Okay. Before we go too much further, right?
Mhm.
I want to remind the listening audience and those who are listening on the podcast, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only, right? This is not investment, business, legal, or tax advice. All right. It's only entertainment. So don't forget that. All right, y'all. So how did you find all the part-time jobs though?
Yeah. So, all right. So I was already working at the thrift store, and I don't know. I want to say I just was on Indeed or something for like David's Bridal. I can't really remember, but I know I was just filling out applications. I was like, if I saw something else part time and it was retail, I was like, oh, let me apply because that's what I had been doing up until that point. So, like, I had worked at CVS when I was a teenager, and then I got the job at the thrift store. And so I've always done retail by that point. So if it was retail and it was something in line with what I was already doing and it fit into my schedule, my school schedule, my other work schedule, all that stuff, then I would just apply.
Okay.
and so that's how I found that. I'm pretty sure it was Indeed, if I'm not mistaken. So
Okay. Now, did you have the side hustles already established when you got the full-time job, the part-time jobs, or was that an afterthought?
that was afterwards. So I started doing Uber and Lyft. I want to say it was like 2017. maybe 2017 or so, or 2016. Well, anyway, I had already had the full-time job. I think I had started Uber and Lyft while I was at the full-time before I got the part-time.
Mm.
And I mean, I loved Uber and Lyft. Like, I'm a
Really?
talker. Yeah, I'm a talker. I like being around people. I'm an extrovert. And so I would love like getting people in the car, taking them wherever they want to go, and we would have really good conversations. I even did an episode with one of my Lyft writers. Um, so it was just a good time. And also, because I'm always thinking strategically, right? So doing the Uber and Lyft, I was talking about Money Talk with Tiff. So, after 2017, after I started the blog, I would start talking about Money Talk with Tiff with my passengers, if they were open to the conversation. And so we would have money conversations in the Uber and Lyft and things like that. And then I wrote a few articles about how to optimize Uber and Lyft. So I was always thinking strategically, like, how can I use this to its fullest capacity? And whether that meant getting new clients or building brand awareness or coming up with tips that might help other drivers, everything I kind of look at as an opportunity, and then beyond what the original opportunity was for, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Now, Uber and Lyft, I'm guessing, was the first side hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said blog.
Well,
See, all right, let's pull back. Let's pull back the onion. Pull back them layers.
yeah, because I'm like, I mean, my entire life has been full of side hustles. So I'm like, I can't really say that's the first. But because I mean, even at that point, I was making and selling soap too. So that was another side hustle that I had started in 2014, was making cold processed soap. And I was just making it when I first started. It was because I wanted real soap for my house. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just sell the extras, because I'm like, I'm not going to use this whole loaf. Like, it's a lot of soap.
Do you make anything else?
Yeah.
What
So,
else? What else?
so I'm very, I like using natural stuff. And so I have made soap before. I've made laundry detergent. I make my own cleaners. I make my own toothpaste, like stuff like that. So yeah, I like natural home remedies, making stuff and stuff like that.
So, do you sell all those things, or did sell them?
No, I mean, the soap, yes, because it was just a lot of soap. Once you start on a hobby, it becomes slightly addicting. So you make a whole bunch of it. And then you're like, well, what am I going to do with this? So yeah, the soap, I started making a lot and selling a lot. And even people to this day, they're like, when you coming out with a new batch? It is like years removed, but with
You got demand.
yeah, it's demand. But I stepped away from selling it so much because it started becoming a chore. And that is when it started, it wasn't fun for me anymore. So I'm like, I'd rather just do it periodically when we need soap versus trying to keep up with demand and making all this soap, because it's not fun. So anyway, and that's not really supposed to be a business. So
Could
anyway,
be.
with
Anything could be a business, right?
yeah, but that's if you want it to be.
Yes, if you want it to be. That's the key word. Want.
If you want it to be,
All right.
that was
So,
supposed to be a hobby.
I have a little secret I'm going to share with everybody. Something I'm
Okay.
thinking about.
I like secrets.
So, I've been burning candles like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And these suckers are expensive.
They're very cheap to make.
Yes. I was like, maybe I'll start making them.
Mm-hmm. You should. It's
I'm thinking about
fun.
it.
You should.
Come out with a rebel line of candles or something.
Why not? I mean, Yankee did it.
Yeah, I mean, I get some of these. I always try to go to black owned businesses.
Mhm, mhm.
This is from Southern Elegance.
Oh,
So
nice.
they have a great line. Um, I don't know. Maybe one day we can be collaborators because I don't believe in competition. So you never know.
Absolutely.
You never know.
Absolutely. I know I've made candles before. And that was only because my little sister wanted to start a candle business. So I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and make some. So it's not hard at all, and it's very easy and it's very cheap. So highly recommend.
Now, see, I asked you if you made some because I had a feeling you made candles. That's why I asked. All right, so should I make candles?
Sure. I mean, now I'm gonna be honest though, like for me, I didn't particularly like making candles only because it wasn't so like with the cold process soap, it's a whole like scientific process. Like if you don't have the stuff right, it's not gonna come out right. You have to measure, you have to do all this extra stuff. With the candles, it was just melting down the wax, putting your additives, and then putting it in your container and letting it harden back up. So it wasn't as scientific. So for me, I was just like, it's okay. But if you use candles a lot, it would definitely be a good money move.
Hmm, okay, okay. I like that. I like that
Mhm.
because they're like $20 a pop, and I'm just like, they've been helping me through this extended tax season. I've been trying to find Zen moments
Mm.
so I can be like woosah. So all right, so that's pretty cool. Anything else you got side hustles in that you didn't share already?
That's a loaded question.
Mm,
How far back are we going? No, but I mean, like during the pandemic, for instance, I was featured on CNBC and Acorns because I had 6 different businesses going simultaneously at the same dang time. It was a lot. I do not recommend anybody do that. But at that time, for instance, I had a logistics company. I had Money Talk with Tiff. I had um, a tie-dye company, a photo video company, and then let me see, I was making desserts, I was selling plates. Like there was a lot of stuff that I was doing, and it became a lot. And so that's why like now I just run Money Talk with Tiff and just have multiple streams of income under that one umbrella versus having so many different things. Because I mean, like during that time, I mean, I was out vending for the tie dye, I was out vending for the soap, I was like doing all types of stuff. And it was fun at first and the money was good, but it was definitely wearing me out.
jeez. So I'm actually looking at your article right now. Very interesting stuff.
Yes, very, very interesting. It was a lot. I do not recommend having so many different kinds of businesses because I mean, it was so many different industries doing so many different things that it was kind of getting annoying to keep up with. Versus now, I just have one umbrella and I have like 8 or 9 income streams. So you could just do it with one. You don't have to have 6.
Well, it's funny, right? Because I get every time I come against something, or not come against, but just share my thoughts on something, I get labeled hater. So I've been labeled the Bitcoin hater, the real estate hater, and the side hustle hater, or the not a side hustle, multiple streams of income hater. And
Now,
I always say it depends on what perspective you're coming from. So if you're looking to like really amass a whole lot of wealth, focus is your secret power.
mhm,
And anybody who's really amassed wealth, like major wealth, will tell you
mhm,
that. They tell you the gems and the power are in the nose. But depending upon what phase of life you're in, sometimes you might need to have a little something extra on the side just to keep you afloat while you're figuring some things out. But
mhm.
this says I started with side hustles. Now my business is bringing over $10,000 per month. Here are some of my tips. So first of all, you got the 5 figures, so we got to give you the horns for that,
Aw.
right? Let's start with that, and then the lovely picture. And then you have all these tips. Know your numbers.
Mhm.
I'm sure the audience is tired of me talking about that.
But it's a necessary. You have to. You just have to.
Listen.
You have to.
Develop and cultivate your network.
Hmm.
Go full time when you gain value from the switch.
Hmm.
Understand your foundational why. Now, it's funny, I heard you talk about it the
Yes.
other day because I feel like I'm the only person that talks about that. Why is knowing your why, no pun intended, important to you?
Because I will say, as a full time entrepreneur, some days you do not want to get up out the bed. Like we just had this conversation before we hit record. Like some days you do not want to get out the bed. And like I've had, especially because I deal with anxiety and depression, so long term history of that, there's some days like I will take days where I do not want to get out the bed. And during those times, it's crazy how it happens, but I'll get a text message or I'll get a email or I'll get a social media message with somebody like, "Oh, I just saw you on this. Oh, Tiffany, I just paid off this." Ah, da, 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 da. You know, something that has to do with my business. And it's like, boom, this is why I do this. This is why I get up out of bed every day. And so having that why, like that strong why on the inside, will help you get through those periods, right? So sometimes I need a reminder, so like an outside reminder, but most of the time it's an internal reminder. I'm like, okay, people are depending on this information. People are depending on what I have to put out there. And this is something that can change lives and change trajectories. And not only that, like this is how I feed my kids. Like my kids are super important to me. So I'm like, that's what gets me out the bed. So like to give you an example, I was sleeping until like 9 o'clock every day, right? But recently I'm like, okay, Tiffany, you can keep sleeping, but bills is coming up. So what you gonna do? And so now I'm like, you know what? Let me get up. So 7 o'clock or so, I'll do my me time for like a good hour because I wake up at 6 every morning for my kids to get on the bus. Me time, lay in the bed for like a good hour. But by the time both the kids are out, I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get rolling. It's time for me to start my day. And, you know, having that why is what makes me keep going. I'll be real. That's what makes me keep going. I mean, if I didn't have it, like if I was just doing this for money, first of all, I tell people I made a lot more when I was in corporate America. Let's just be real. But if I was just doing this for money, that why for me is not strong enough. Right. Because that's how it was when I was in corporate. I was doing it for money for the most part. And so do you see me in corporate now? No. So that why was not strong enough. What's strong enough for me is the purpose behind what I'm doing. And
Mm.
so when I get those messages, when I get those DMs, when I get those emails and, you know, people sending me screenshots of stuff that I didn't even know was going to be coming out, that's what keeps pushing me to keep going. And it's so important to have that, especially as an entrepreneur.
Okay, so those times when you are looking to fight and bring down those debts and destroy that debt,
Mhm.
and you might have a bout of depression or anxiety, your service to others to kind of help snap you back, right? So that's kind of a jump.
Mhm.
People kind of get tired of me saying it, but I always say giving equals receiving to the
Mhm.
thousand power. And I also say a lot of people don't like this either. If you're doing something, give it away for free.
Mhm.
And that will not forever, y'all. I know some of y'all being like super literal, you know. Yes, keep food on the table, keep the electric on, but if you can figure out a way to do it for free, it's so fulfilling and it will definitely help you come back from some of those bouts. Because I don't know any entrepreneur or any quote unquote business owner that doesn't deal with bouts of depression
Mhm.
and anxiety. I know I do at times.
Mhm.
I don't really talk about it that much because I'm super macho man, but I'm not allowed to process those emotions. But I think we all go through it.
Mhm.
Or I mean, my thing is, sometimes I'll get text messages from my clients
Mhm.
slash friends. and they'll ask me questions about taxes and other stuff. And it just sends me down a whole rabbit hole. Like, why are you asking me this? Focus on starting your business. Do some marketing, damn it. Leave me alone.
No, I totally get that. But, to your point about doing stuff for free, like when I first started, I always just did free stuff. Now, granted, like you said, you can't do that forever because you will run yourself ragged and you won't have any money. But going back to also as a community bartering. So like for instance, today I bartered for service. Like you don't have to get paid every time, but you can exchange value. So like today, for instance, I need my car fixed and the business owner, black owned business, they needed help with their business. So I'm like, let's trade services, And so it was mutually beneficial and we did it. So we didn't have to exchange money, but we exchanged service. And so I was able to help them. They were able to help me. And I feel like as a community, we've gotten away from that because people are like, oh, you gotta, charge, you gotta charge your worth, you gotta do this, da, 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 da. But sometimes bartering, that's how they used to do it back in the day. And I'm a firm believer in bartering, as long as we both need each other's services. Now, of course, if you don't need the service, then what's the point? But if you need the service and y'all both need each other, then why not? And I feel like we should do more of that as a community.
So I love the idea of bartering, matter of fact. But it's difficult and it's not for everybody. What I've learned.
This is true.
And so it can be really, really good when you have people who are on the same wavelength, have similar values, and have a commitment to honoring whatever they bring to the table.
No, I completely agree with that because there have been times where I tried to barter and I did my part of the deal and the other person didn't do their part. And, it doesn't feel good, I'll be honest. But at the same time, I'm like, at the end of the day, just count it as a donation. I just helped somebody else. But, when you expect to get something back in return and then that doesn't get returned to you, then it's just like, But there are people out there that have the same mindset and do hold up their word and stuff. And, I just feel like it is a good thing to have and to do.
So tell me, how do you set up your barters? That's I don't even think I've ever talked about that on the show.
No, well, cool.
You're breaking ground.
Yes. No, but
hold on, make sure y'all listen up, y'all.
Brothers and sisters.
Listen up.
Brothers and sisters.
I need a soundboard.
I don't know what this world is coming to.
Now, with that said, right, the world is getting crazier and crazier. There are inflation's rampant, right? This is one of the ways we survive as a community, by going further into our community. That's why I feel like it's a good thing to talk about. So how do you establish a real barter opportunity with someone?
Yeah. Okay. So let's just take this most recent one, for instance, right? So I know that they're a mechanic, right? They know that I help with business and I've helped them before with their business, setting up the LLC, EIN, all that stuff. And so they were like, I might need another appointment with you. Now, my fee is about the same as what they said it would cost to fix my vehicle. And so I'm like,
now, is that with parts, without parts?
This is without parts. This is just labor. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm not expecting them to buy all the parts and all that stuff. Now, if that was part of the deal from the beginning, then okay. But in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, labor for labor. You know what I'm saying? So they needed help they were like, oh, I might need an appointment with you soon. And I'm like, well, I actually need my car fixed because I have a bad oil leak and I might be locking up the engine. I don't know. So, so anyway, when they came today, they came to look at the car. They priced out the parts and stuff. Gonna go ahead and order that. And then directly afterwards, We did, the one-on-one counseling thing. Well, not counseling, consulting thing for his business. And that was that. So, now he just has to come back, do the work. We might have another conversation while he's doing the work, whatever. It's really just me talking. And I like teaching people anyway. So for me, I'm just like, it's nothing that, it's not an expense. It's just like a time thing for me. So I'm just like, when he comes back to do the work, we'll probably talk a little bit more. And then that'll be the end of the deal until we need each other again. So that's kind of how, like, it kind of happens organically. But I do say to make sure that you are clear on what their pricing is, what your pricing is. So that way you can kind of get, in kind of an equal exchange.
So, what are some of your worst experiences, or just one experience that was really, really bad in bartering?
Like, I've never had like a horrible experience, but with one situation, I had partnered with somebody that was a grant writer, because I was like, "Ooh, I want to, do some grants or what have you," and they needed help with their personal finances. So I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let's just trade." Okay. Um, and the part of the trade, I mean, if I did get a grant that they did, they still were going to get paid for that grant. So really the trade was just their time in putting the grant information in. Okay. And then my end of the trade was helping them with their finances. And so we were doing like kind of like an hour for hour type thing, if that makes sense. So anyway, I helped them get through a lot of what they had going on financially and personally. And, I'm like, "Hey, have you applied for anything yet? What's going on with this? What's going on with that?" Now, I understand there was a lot going on with that situation just on the personal front, and I get it because I had gone through the same thing. And so I was very patient, and that's why I don't really count it as a super bad experience, because I understand, like, there was just a lot going on at the same time. So after a while, they were like, "Well, Tiffany, I don't think I can do this right now. I have a lot on my plate. This is, I'm not able to commit to this pretty much anymore." That's pretty much what they said. And I'm like, well, like, I understand you have a lot going on. I have a lot going on too, but it is what it is. So I was just like, "Well, I appreciate you letting me know, da 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 da, because I still want to make sure we have a good relationship." And that was it. And that was just how it ended. Now, don't get me wrong. She has tried to refer people to me because she was like, "Oh, you helped me tremendously," and this, that, and the other. So she has tried to refer people to me and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just kind of how it went. So
All right. So, before, I think this is really important. So, I want to just stay here for a minute. If you could say three things
Mhm.
about developing a partnership, or bartering partnership with someone, what would it be?
I would say make sure that they're on the same wavelength. So, somebody that has the same mindset, like, this is going to be a mutually beneficial experience, and that, you feel like they'll keep their word. Two, make sure that you're looking at value. Like I said, with the mechanic, we already knew each other's rates, and the rates kind of matched up, So make sure that you're getting your values worth and they're getting their values worth, I would say. And then three, just hold up your end of the deal. Like, if you get into a situation, hold up your end. Because I mean, at the end of the day, right, there's a higher power that sees everything. And if you do what you're supposed to do, then you're good. It's up to the other person and their conscience and stuff if they decide that they don't. So that's how I look at life. That's how I look at things. And so I'm always going to do the right thing, regardless of what other people decide they want to do. So I would say that would be my top three things. Just make sure that you are getting value and the other person is getting value as well.
So, it's mutually beneficial for
Yes.
everybody.
Everybody, because otherwise it's no point.
Got you. Makes sense. Makes sense. But don't want to go too far into that because we can talk about that forever, right? But back to the debt. We increased our income to start paying down our debt. I hear a lot of people say a lot of other things when it comes to debt. What do you think about that?
If you're referring to reducing your expenses,
don't buy lattes. don't buy drawers. Don't buy socks. Like you got people say all kinds of things.
Yeah, so about that. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I live very frugally. That's just how I live my life, and I've been like that since I started making my own money at 16. I just live very, very frugally. Okay, so with that being said, I tell people, those little expenses, yeah, they add up, but a lot of times it's the big expenses that you should worry about trying to get down. So, for instance, let me give you an example. If you're looking at your, okay, here's a good one. With the 2020 thing, they had the mortgage forbearance, that whole thing. So that's housing is a huge portion of what you spend out every single month. Usually
the biggest.
Exactly.
Usually 35 to 50%, if not more, of your overall income.
Exactly. So if you're knocking out something like that, so like for instance, if you were eligible for the forbearance and you took advantage, then that's a huge chunk of income that you are now able to put into other areas, maybe pay off debt or what have you, that you can work with. That's way more important than a Starbucks latte or whatever they call it. That's way bigger. That's going to make a bigger chunk. Another thing, for instance, your utilities and stuff. Personally, I'm on the equal payment plan. So they also call it budget billing because I know exactly how much my energy my energy bill is going to be every single month. It makes it easier for me to plan for it. And that for me is better than having these variable, maybe it's $100 and something one month, then it's like $70 something next month. I just have straight for 11 months out the year. It's the same exact amount. That's how much I pay. So for me, it's easier that way. Also, let me see what else. What's another big expense? Cars. Okay. So yes, cars. They are very expensive. Like if you consider payments, usually people have payments, gas, insurance, taxes, like all these things that you're paying just to drive around, right? Yeah. So when I was doing my debt payoff, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of that came from downsizing my vehicle. And not even downsizing, because I have the same size vehicle, the same color, everything. The only thing that's different is a little older than what I had, because I had something brand new off the lot, which don't take your family members with you to go car shopping. Another hint.
I've been there.
Yeah, do not take your family members with you because they will talk you into stuff that you do not need, and they are not the ones paying the bills.
Yeah, girl, you gonna look good in that car.
Yeah, you might as well get what you gonna get.
You only live once,
right? Yeah, no. So anyway, a big portion of that was selling the car that I had and getting a car, like I said, same size, same color, different brand, maybe a little older, but it was way cheaper in payments. Matter of fact, that one I was able to pay off in less than a year. And the insurance was cheaper. The taxes was cheaper. All of that stuff was cheaper. So it's like, at the end of the day, I went from paying an almost $400 car note to now nothing. Now, if I still had that car, I would still be paying that $400 car note, which is crazy to me when I think about it, because it was like a 7-year or something loan. So I'm like, sometimes it's those big expenses that you can knock out, and that'll free up your cash flow to kind of get more headway on stuff. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like eating out can add up too, because I've had that happen. One time was a real wake up call for me when I was married, and it was just in 1 week. I mean, it was like the 1st to the 7th. $300 just in fast food. I said, oh no, oh no, this is not, we could not keep going this route. And so it does add up, don't get me wrong, but it's those big expenses that can really give you headway to either pay off debt, save whatever it is you're trying to do.
Man, you sound like my family because we go through on the weekends. Oh boy, it gets crazy. But car payments, kudos to you for doing that. I just paid my car off. Well, it's my wife's car. Paid it off, final payment, got our title back already. And I'm like, I don't want another car payment for a long time.
It feels completely different.
Lord, jeez. So yeah, that's good. My daughter's about to go away to college soon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no payments. I don't want nothing. So that's good. So you figured out making more money. Now you brought up something I gotta ask. Did you make a major dent in your debt during the pandemic because of forbearance or anything like that?
So, okay. Full disclosure, full transparency. I got married during the pandemic, and that's when things went.
Congratulations.
No. That's when things went all downhill, to be honest with you. And so, just looking at your face. That was
Like,
funny.
what did I say? I feel
funny.
like this now.
You big dummy, you big dummy, you big dummy, you dummy.
Listen, it is what it is. Sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool. But here's the thing, right? So I was on my debt free by 30 journey, and I almost made it. I got married in 2020, and at that time I was 29 or so. Yeah, I was 29. And so I had one more year. Okay. And I felt that in my soul. I had one more year and I was on track and things were good. Then I got married, and that's when a lot of extra stuff, because I was the one with good credit. And so that's when a lot of the extra debt and stuff started accumulating, because we had started a business that needed a lot of capital. And then, of course, I had to put my name on everything. And so that's how I accumulated that additional debt, was during the course of the marriage. Now, with that being said, don't get me wrong, it served its purpose at the time, but I am now holding the bag. And so, with that being said, and I forgot where I was going with that.
About paying down debt during the pandemic.
Yes. So I paid down some, but I was accumulating at the same time. So it really was like a net gain versus a net loss, if that makes sense.
No, I got you. And I have to ask, if you had to do it all over again, would you go into business with your spouse? Do you think that's a good idea in general?
So generally speaking, if you have someone that is like has the same mindset and is down to do it with you, and y'all can work together, like it could be a beautiful thing, don't get me wrong, because two people working on a business is typically better than one. But in my particular situation, that was not the case. I was just running everything for the most part, and I had all the debt and stuff just by myself. And so that did not work out for me. But not to say that it can't work. My thing is, what I would warn people though, is if things don't work out, it is a mess to untangle, because that is the type of situation that I'm going through now. It is very, very difficult to untangle that type of stuff. So if I had to make a suggestion, and like I said, everybody's situation's different, and I'm not a love hater, I promise. But if I had to make a suggestion, I would probably keep it separate. Just hindsight 2020 in my situation, I would probably just have kept it separate. So, like, if he wanted to do the logistics business, I would have just let him do the logistics business and I stay with Money Talk, if that makes sense. So, I feel like, and I'm just speaking from my experience, that's how I would handle it. Hindsight 2020.
Makes sense. Make a lot of sense. Now, gotta ask this question. Are you a big believer of joint banking accounts with spouses and all of that?
Oh, we are going in. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, it's cool. No, because I feel like my experience can help other people. So when I first got married, yes. Okay. So I was looking at my grandparents as an example because they were married for like 50, 60 years, all that stuff. And that's how they operate. So my grandparents operated where my grandpa would bring in the money. My grandma would handle all the bills, handle the budgeting, keeping everything straight. And then my grandpa would be like, okay, how much do I have to spend? That type of thing. And so when I got married, I had that same mindset because that was the example that I've seen my entire life. Now, that I have learned does not work with everybody. Okay. So so hindsight 2020, I would not do a joint anything anymore. But with that situation, I did do, like, everything became joint. So I was like, oh, put your name on my account, put my name on your account, all that stuff. And so everything's intertwined. And now that I'm trying to undo this process, when I look back, it was like 13 different bank accounts, between all the businesses, the personals, all of that stuff that now we have to untangle. And so I would say, and especially, it makes it easier for people to do financial abuse and financial infidelity and stuff like that when they're combined as well. I personally would not do that anymore. It doesn't work for everybody, but that's
What's
not to say. Oh, go
what's
ahead.
financial? You said financial infidelity.
Yes, that is a thing. So what that looks like is, okay, let me give you real common examples. So
I
let's
feel like I'm
say,
just getting all in your business. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no. No, this is good because I love educating, right? So, financial infidelity is when you do something and you don't want to tell the other person about the thing you did with the money. Okay. So,
Oh,
yeah.
you
So,
mean like when the ladies go out and buy the red bottoms and they hide them and they don't want to share the receipts?
that's a
Oh,
type of financial infidelity. Yes.
got it. Got it.
But it happens both ways. It happens both ways too. Because I mean, like, for instance, and we're not stereotyping here, we're just giving examples.
Oh,
But like, with guys, for instance, sometimes, maybe if they like to gamble or whatever, they might be like, oh, let me just do a few dollars here. My wife don't need to know about it. But that's a type of financial infidelity. And so if you want to be good with your money and it's a joint situation, then you're supposed to be talking about things that come, go in and out. Like, that's just how it's supposed to be. But when you don't, then it can kind of cross that boundary and it kind of erodes trust. It erodes a lot of communication. It erodes a lot of things in the relationship. And that's why a lot of times divorces and stuff happen over money, because really it's a communication thing. Really, it's a trust
thank you for
thing.
saying that.
Yes. So yeah, there's financial infidelity, there's financial abuse, which can look in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I think having your own separate stuff, just me, like, for instance, if I ever get married again, or if I ever get in a long-term joint, whatever again, I'm not putting anything joint. Like, it's just gonna be my money and your money, and just make sure that you have your half when it comes time to do the bills and stuff, and I'll have my half. And that's just how it's gonna have to roll.
I get it. I get it. I so get it.
Mhm.
Okay, so you've been through some trials and tribulations. You've been to the mountaintops. You've been to the valley.
Mhm.
How did you continue to keep fighting? Because again, a lot of people are like, I've messing up all my words tonight. I've accumulated debt.
Mhm.
I got into this relationship that got me in more debt. I got these babies. How do I keep going from here?
Yeah. So, okay. So looking at it from my perspective, right? So this is exactly what I was going through. And I said, okay, Tiffany, because for a while, and especially with the work that I do, I felt like a fraud. Like I felt like, well, dang, how can I tell people about what to do with their money when my financial house is in chaos, But also in that situation, what I realized was, after I made the decision to separate things again. So, like, I told them, I said, look, I'm gonna make my own account. You got this account over here. We're just gonna keep things separate. We're just gonna use the joint account for bills. And I just took action and did it. Then I realized, well, dang, I do have money. All of a sudden I had money again. And so that's what I try to tell people now. Like, if you are in a situation when you're dealing with like financial infidelity, financial abuse and stuff, if the stuff is joint, try to separate it, just so that way you can see, what's really going on. And at the end of the day, because he would use that against me as well, like trying to get into my psyche, like, well, this is what you do for a living, and you don't have no money, and you don't da 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 da, and da 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 da. How you doing this? Da, da, da. Just pretty much adding to the pressure that I was already feeling. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what, Tiffany, you help people with this all day, every day. So even if you have to go to ground zero, like, I know there's not a zero credit score, but if you have to go to ground zero, the tools, the tricks, how to get it done. You've paid off this amount of debt before. You've built your credit score up before. Like, you've done this before. And so at the end of the day, what's more important to you? And so that's how I had to kind of look at things, because things were starting to escalate to where, he was saying stuff in front of my kids or doing stuff in front of my kids. And I'm like, this is not the example that I want for my kids. And so with that, and then also thinking about my safety, also thinking about, how I can build myself back up financially, I said, I don't have time for this, and that's what kind of gave me the courage to end that situation and go forward. And like I said, going back to having that strong why, for me, the why again became, okay, Tiffany, you need to have your house in order so that way you can have your kid, you can be a good example for your kids. You can be a good example for other people out there that are looking to you to be an example. This is what you need to do. And this is what you were doing. Why are you not doing it anymore? And so I had to go right back to that same why, So that's kind of how I was looking at the situation after I snapped out of it. After I snapped out of the whole thing, I was like, you know what? Go back to your why, Tiffany. Does any of this fit into your why? It absolutely does not. So why are you even doing it? And so that was that.
No, I mean, listen, kudos for sharing that. Thank you for being so transparent. It's so funny. People think financial folks don't go through financial stuff. Like everything's always perfect, and it's not.
Mm-mm.
We just study it a little bit harder and probably understand it a little bit better. But, if I'm in business or I am in business and my client decides not to pay me or not pay an invoice,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to have an impact on my business and my personal life. So
Mm-hmm.
you get enough of those, you string enough of those together, things get bad. Listen, if billionaires can be unbillionaired, and I'm not talking about Ye. There was
You
another
sure? No,
popular. No, there was another popular billionaire this week from FTX who
Mhm.
lost a whole bunch of money. Right? It happens. It happens
Mhm.
often. Right? So you can be unbillionaired and just like totally change the whole trajectory. So if billionaires can lose billions, just imagine what your financial professional is going through as well,
Mhm.
or might go through.
Absolutely. And I mean, to add on to that point, like, there's a lot of us, like, that does not take away from what we can teach and what we can, help other people with either. Like, there was a whole, the whole Twitter thing that was going on where somebody has said, well, why would you listen to someone for financial advice when they have credit card debt or something crazy, something
the
silly.
dumbest piece of
But anyway.
caca.
Right. So
Yeah.
when they said that, I'm like, well, it depends on where they're coming from. Like, for instance, with me, if I've already paid off like 50, 60,000 and I still got some more to go, what if there's somebody out there that hasn't paid off anything yet, or
Right.
only
Right.
paid off 1,000 or whatever? Then my knowledge is still valuable to them. So really, it's also all about perspective. Like,
Right.
at the end of the day, and then somebody else had followed up and was like, yeah, that's like listening to a fat person about losing weight. But I'm like, you don't know if that fat person came from 600 pounds and now they
Right.
300.
Right.
If that's the case, I want to listen to them because that's more than I've ever done. So it happens. We're all human. We all go through some things, but for me, I feel like that's what makes it good. Like, we have practical experience now. It's not just book stuff. Like,
I mean, it's all about perspective, right? The one that used to get me when I was a financial advisor was, why should I listen to you? You're not rich. And okay. That's not like, well, what happens with the heart doctors who get heart disease? Do you stop listening to their advice just because they had a disease? Like, sometimes y'all be reaching.
but it's real though. It's
Yeah, it
real.
happens all the time. It's like, one time I got into a kind of a heated debate with somebody. It was like, well, Kamari, you're not rich. I said, I'm not rich yet because I choose to be ethical, because there's a lot of stuff I could sell folks that I choose not to. Like, there's all kinds of scams going on. For example, I could probably sell LLC prep, no diss to you, but I could sell LLC preparation 6 ways a Sunday, and nobody would ever think anything otherwise. But a lot of times in these quote unquote legal mills, what I call them, or LLC mills, they will have people get 10 different LLCs, an S Corp, a C Corp, and they ain't even got a business. And it's like, I just rather not do that. That just doesn't sit well with my soul. But
Exactly. And see, that's another thing too. I'm glad you brought that up though, because, like, for instance, when I'm doing my business consulting, I'm not doing the work for people. I'm teaching them what they need to do. And I'm pretty much there for questions. Like, I don't believe, like, for instance, I had one client where they pretty much got ripped off. I'm gonna just be real. Where somebody charged them for an LLC, EIN, all that good stuff or whatever.
I do. Don't ever pay anybody to do an EIN. They're free. They take 2 minutes. If it's a whole package, that's different. But just for an EIN singularly, please listen. If I hear about any of y'all doing that, y'all been warned. And if I do hear about it, y'all getting this.
You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You dummy.
But listen, I'm joking, but seriously, don't pay anybody to do a stinking
Right.
EIN number.
And
Like,
see, that's
cool.
what I told them when they came to me. I said, this literally takes like maybe 5 minutes and you get it immediately. Like, it's not that big of a push. And see, the thing is, they didn't know. And so, and that's what I tell people. And that's why I try to do as much education as possible. Cause I'm like, if you just know these things, even if you decide that you want to hire something out, if you know the basics, nobody can get over on you. So when I was telling them like the steps that it took to do an LLC and an EIN and all that stuff, they was like, what? I don't believe like that's all it takes. And, I paid all of this money and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, see, that's why I like to educate people, because I want you to know, like, for instance, if I walk you through the LLC, you should be able to do the LLC next time if you decide to do something else or you want to teach somebody else. It's not that difficult. So anyway,
it's not. But remember, most of y'all don't need them. So we talked about that last week. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into that. Money Talk with Tiff is a sole proprietorship. It is not an LLC. Just FYI.
That's what it just being super transparent. That's so dope. But again, back to the debt and how you paid off the debt. So
Mhm.
you recognized you had debt, didn't like it anymore.
Mhm.
You started to hustle a little bit harder.
Mhm.
There was a question in the chat that I started because I wanted to come back to it because they said, how do you find the energy if you're a full-time mommy, full-time job, and got a part-time job when you have time for you? Right. But you did all that. You were able to do all that, still make time for your children, because I know you were doing that before we went live tonight. What, again, like, how do you find time for yourself?
Look, y'all. Sleepwear. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I do, like, believe it or not, and I've become better with this too. So now what I do is I block off my time. Like at that time, there was some time for myself, but it was very minimal because adding to that, I was also in school full time too. So, me time was very minimal during that time. But in my head, I'm like, okay, short term sacrifice for long term gain. And not only that, some of the stuff that I was doing was fun for me. Like that was considered my me time. So like when I was working on Money Talk with Tiff, or when I was driving Uber and Lyft, that was kind of like my me time. To me, I'm like, oh, I'm away from the kids, that type of thing. So, I think it just depends on the person too. Cause a lot of times when I'm working on Money Talk with Tiff, I love it. Like, this is so fun for me. And so for me, a lot of times it doesn't even look like work. And some of my friends, they're like, dang, you still working? And I'm like, am I working or am I having fun? So, it just depends. But now I will say I do block off. So, like I said, in the mornings, that's kind of my me time from like 6 to 7:30 ish. I'm just laying in the bed yelling at the kids, like, are you ready yet? Time to go to the bus, but I'm laying in the bed, chilling, maybe watching YouTube, scrolling social, whatever I decide to do. And then after they leave, I have another hour or so where I'm like taking my shower, listening to meditations, whatever I decide to do that morning. And then I'll come in here and start working. So really my work time is from like 9 to 3 every day. And then I might do some stuff like this in the evening, depending. But my real hours are like 9 to 3.
9 to 3. Got it.
Mhm.
Got it. So any other advice you want to give somebody who's looking to fight their way out of debt?
Be intentional. I think that is the biggest thing that will help you. Know what your picture looks like now. Know what you want it to look like. Have some real goals in place, like some SMART goals. I know y'all heard of that, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. Make sure you have those goals set up so you have a target to aim at. Because if you're just trying to shoot in the dark, you're going to end up not going anywhere, to be honest. And so just have goals, be intentional towards those goals. And last but not least, budget. Because that is how I did it all. I had a budget, I was strict with it. Even to this day, that is what I do. And that's how I'm able to accomplish as much as I do, because I have to know how my money's flowing. Otherwise, it just flows out the window.
That nasty B word, budget.
Yes.
Ooh.
Cash flow, money manifestation tool, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. You just have to know how your money's coming in, how it's going out. Like, I don't care what you call it, but you have to. Otherwise, you won't have any, I promise, because I've been there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Now, do you have time to answer a few questions?
Sure.
If anybody, okay, cool. So we'll keep you here for a little while longer.
Mm-hmm.
We're already at the hour mark. We're not going to go too crazy. But if anybody has any questions about how to reduce your debt, destroy your debt, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And tonight, you could also use the call-in number. So you can call in 484-278-1357, 484-278-1357. So while we're waiting to see if anybody has any comments, questions, thoughts, let's go through some of these comments. So Nia's here. Hey, Nia.
Hey, girl. Hey.
She says she's just the bomb.
Oh, I'm just a regular schmegula.
No, not in her world. Listen, we all gotta have somebody to be a fan, right?
No.
Jose, what's up, Jose? Thank you for joining. Thank you. Letitia's here. Yes, Tiffany is back. I had to bring her back. If y'all remember 2 weeks ago, I messed up the scheduling somehow. I think I didn't send it to her schedule, and it got all jacked up. It was my fault. It was her, not me.
Look, it was we'll blame it on the calendar, right?
No, but I didn't send the link, so I got to take accountability. Listen, I mess a lot of things up, so I just got to own them. I got to own them. All right, Nia says yes, no is a complete sentence. It so is.
Yes.
So is.
No. and I'll tell you what, no, like, okay, this is another spiel real quick. Everybody has free will. It is God given. And so you only do whatever you want to do. Otherwise, if you allow people, like, free will can only be coerced or given away. Okay. And so with both of those, you have to allow it to happen. And so when you say no, because it's something that you don't want to do, you are maintaining your free will. Whenever you allow someone to coerce it out of you, or you freely give it away, it's no longer yours anymore. And I can go into a big deep dive on that, which I'm not. But just know,
I'm at to have you come back because you're getting woo woo. I like woo woo.
I like woo woo. I'm a woo woo person.
I like woo woo.
But yeah, say no. Like if it doesn't serve a purpose, like if it doesn't, and that's why I say having goals is so important too, because it's easy to start weeding stuff out when you know where you're going. It's not easy to weed stuff out when you're just blowing in the wind.
Facts. All right, so Leah says you sound like her. All right, a lot of people work side hustles. What decisions did you make differently that led to the debt payoff?
Yeah, so
I thought I asked that question, but maybe I didn't.
I don't know. But I mean, and my answer might be different.
Go for it.
I just be talking. So what decisions did I make differently? So I would say having side hustles, because not all side hustles are a hit, right? Like some of them you're just like, okay, that didn't make any sense. But you don't know unless you do it. And so I kept around the ones that were actually profitable or that actually made sense for what I was trying to do, and left the ones that didn't. So a lot of times people will start a side hustle and just do it and just keep doing it, even though it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make money. And sometimes even in the negative, like I know people that are doing like DoorDash and stuff like that, and really they're operating in the negative, but that's because they don't know their numbers and they're not looking at it. They're just looking at the immediate payout, right? So I'm looking at, okay, how much did I get? What were my expenses to get this done? And does it make sense for me to do it? So I think that might be one of the differences too. And then also, I hustled hard. I'm not even gonna lie. Like anytime I had a babysitter, it wasn't for me to go out. It wasn't for me to do anything like, that didn't make money. Like if I had a babysitter, I was going to make money. And so that was probably also another reason. If they were staying the night for a weekend somewhere, I was driving Uber and Lyft the entire weekend. I mean, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. Sometimes I would go to even different cities depending on what was going on, just so I can capitalize on that time. So that's another thing, optimizing your time to make sure that you make the most money.
So what would you say now? Because I struggle with Uber and Lyft because I did it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a great value proposition for anybody that's doing it?
When I was doing it, yes. But that was like way back in the day. I have no idea what it looks like right now, to be honest with you. So I really don't know what it's looking like now. Like, I don't know what the rates are. I don't know if it's worth it for people anymore. But I know when I was doing it, like it was booming. And that was because it wasn't that many people on the road. It was kind of new. So,
right.
Yeah,
I get into this debate a lot. I always say Uber and Lyft are for side hustles. I
Mhm.
don't think it's a great main job. When you run the numbers, when you look at the mileage and the beating on the car, it's really rough. And I don't think the companies really factor that in to any of their pricing. But
Right. So that's the thing. So like, okay, when I used to do Uber and Lyft, when
sorry
I
for the tangent, y'all.
you're like when somebody lean back like this now. But when I used to do Uber and Lyft, I had it down to a science. Like there, me and one of my coworkers at my full time job, we would both drive and we would look out for each other. Like, oh, this event is happening here. Oh, this is a
Mhm,
surge here. You know, da 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 da
mhm,
da. And so we would sit there and strategize on how to make the most money. So, like for instance, one night I made like $700 in like I don't know, it was like 2, 3 hours or so. But that was because we had it down to a science. We were like really optimizing it. I don't know about if you just go out there and just do random stuff. I don't know if it's going to work like that.
I get it. I get it. All right. So, Facebook user, you gotta give StreamYard permission to share your name because I don't know who you are, and I don't want to just disrespect you and say Facebook user. But
Mhm.
what up, family? How you doing? All right. So it says I love the barter. Okay. Cool. Cool. I think bartering's cool too.
Mhm.
I guess I've just been scorned by it.
And don't give up hope. Like people tell me with love, don't give up hope. You might find a good bartering partner.
Listen, I'll be open to it. I'll be open to it. It got to be the right thing, though. It's got to be the right thing.
Mhm.
Like I don't,
For sure.
but never mind. That's a whole other thing. I don't want nobody trying to sell me no socks or nothing like that. It doesn't make sense.
Now,
All right,
look,
Judy Owens is in the building. No, go ahead, Tiff. I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, shoot, I was making a lot of money with socks.
Selling socks, you sold socks too.
With the tie-dye business, yeah. We were
So we have
tie-dyeing.
yet another hustle, y'all.
Man, let me tell you, because we were tie-dyeing and it started with socks, like just the Nike socks, just tie-dyeing white Nike socks. And people were paying for the socks. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they was nice and they were unique and nobody else would have them. People would pay for the socks. I think we were selling them for like $10 a pair.
I ain't mad at it, but how do we barter socks?
I mean, if you
How
was
many
sock
how many bundles of socks are you willing to give me? I'm gonna have socks for like 10 years.
But you know what though? There are people that are serious about their socks. Like there was we had one client, well, customer where he, dressed up for work, whatever. His socks was important. And so he loved having those like statement pieces because he was also in sales too, having those statement pieces.
I agree, but I'm thinking about hustle man that comes to the barbershops and the beauty salons, and they got the white socks.
The plain socks.
Yes, and that's what was running through my mind when I said I can't barter any socks. But
Well, like
even if they're dress socks, whatever. No,
it
no.
has to be mutually beneficial bartering, like Judy has up here on the screen. It has
Yes,
to be. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. Now, if you're a
yes,
sock fanatic and you collect socks, then maybe that's a good deal for you. But if not, then maybe find another partner.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. All right, so breaking ground. All right, be clear on pricing. Yes, that's very important when it comes to bartering with anything.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Big Daddy still rocks 29. What up? What up? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Big Daddy is here. I just called you Big Daddy. I said I wouldn't call you Big Daddy, but Big Daddy's here every week. So I appreciate you, sir.
And last time I was here, I was like, "You want me to call him Big Daddy?"
Y'all you affected my manhood over here. Got me running around.
Oh, that was good.
All right, Leticia says no. And she says she felt that in her soul. I know what she's talking about.
Mhm.
Okay. All righty. Anybody have any questions about paying down your debt? Go ahead and throw them in the chat. We're here for a few more minutes, but I haven't eaten yet. Y'all know what I'll get when I don't have my vittles. All right, financially present. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is an important conversation because the weight of debt feels different depending on who you are. That is a fact. That's a fact. So
Yeah, because on Twitter, everybody has an opinion on Twitter, but
Is that
somebody
blue check Twitter or like regular Twitter? Sorry. Yeah.
just had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
But somebody has said, well, why pay off debt? Whatever. And my thing is, if it gives you peace of mind, then why not? Like for me, having debt, I'm not at my highest peace level when I have debt on my shoulders. And so for me, paying off debt is a priority because that's what makes me comfortable.
Right.
For other people, it might not be like that. Like I have some clients where they're like, I don't care about my student loans, like, that type of attitude. And, if that's not on their goal list, now granted, we're not gonna let it get into what's it called?
What?
When it goes too long without a payment.
I was about to say deferment, not deferment.
Not deferment. That's
I know what you're talking about too. Wow, we both having a brain freeze on this.
Dang.
Somebody in the comments help us.
Default. We're not going to let them go into default, but if you don't want to prioritize paying off your student loan debt, then don't. I mean, if that's not what's important to you, if other things are important to you, then cool. So it just depends on what your goals are and who the person is, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this though. I don't think peace of mind, the ROI of peace of mind, is not factored in hardly enough. Because there's a great ROI when it comes to peace of mind, and some would say it's priceless. Now, to the point, some people say financial independence is better than being debt free. Right? Financial independence is when you have assets to pay for all your debts, all your bills. Being debt free is just not having any debt. And there is value to that too. But like you said, it all depends on what you want to do.
Right. Exactly.
Not what somebody else wants to do.
Exactly. And that's why I say, why are you doing this? Why is this a goal? Like, ask yourself, why is this a goal? Is it because everybody's getting a house and now you want to get a house? Or, why is this a goal? And ask yourself that with the goals that you currently have, or if you don't have any, as you're creating the goals, ask yourself why. Like, what is triggering this goal? Like, and I tell people, have a foundational why as to why you're trying to reach something too, because then it keeps you focused. That's how I was able to pay off the debt too, just having that why.
Gotcha. All right. So listen, y'all, don't forget to go on and over subscribe to the podcast channel. All right. The Finance Rebel podcast channel. So I can grow that. We got the main channel, which I've been a little slacking on lately, but I will pick up making some YouTube videos at some point. Just bear with me. All right. So we got that. Budget is the only messenger.
Is only the messenger.
Oh, thank you. I ain't had my videos, y'all. Forgive me. Budget is only the messenger. I was about to make the same mistake again. Jeez Louise. Mr. Harris, how are you, Mr. Harris? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for attending. Oh, another question. Yeah, we need to get you on the show. How did you stay focused during your journey?
What I just said. So I kind of answered it before the question came up, but having that strong why is exactly how I stayed focused. So I was like, I want to be debt free by 30. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm putting out on the internet that I'm going to do. So this is what I have to do. And so for me, that is how I stay focused, was having a strong why and then making sure that I stuck to it. But if it's strong enough, you'll stick to it. So.
Right. Okay. All right. About that wallet. Thank you for joining us, sir. And as a matter of fact, Anthony is on at the same time as me, right?
I don't know.
I think he does every Wednesday, right?
It'd be a lot of y'all having stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, everybody follow Nia's Perspective. Everybody follow About That Wallet. They all do great stuff. That Snowball or that Avalanche?
Both.
Both.
So how I
Both.
yeah, both of them. So it just depends, right? So for instance, when I was going through my journey, I did a combination of both. So I did the debt snowball at the beginning because I needed quick wins in order to show myself that I can do it and to psychologically get started and get things done. Now, like present day, I'm doing debt avalanche because I want to save the most amount of money. So, I feel like you can do a combination of both depending on what the debt makeup is. So, when I was first starting, it was really just student loans, which are very low interest rates anyway. So I was like, oh, let me just do the debt snowball. And I was getting these quick wins, getting the letters in the mail, which is awesome. I need another one, saying that it's paid off in full. And that's what got me started and started the momentum. Then once I had the momentum, I switched to the avalanche to save the most money. So I feel like you can do a combination of both.
Let me jump in.
Sure.
Please explain debt snowball versus debt avalanche.
Yes. So debt snowball is when you take the lowest amount and then you pay that off first, and then you move on to the next lowest amount, dollar amount, and then you move on to the next, and so on and so forth. So if you have debt, and let's say one is $100, one is $500, one is $1,000, regardless of what the interest rate is, you're gonna do the $100 one first, the $500 next, and then the $1,000 one after. Debt avalanche, let's say you have the same debt, $100, $500, 1,000, but let's say the $500 one is 27%, the $1,000 one is 15, and the $100 one is 3%. Okay, so in that order, you would do the 500 first, the 1,000, and then the 100. So that's looking at the interest rates. So you're knocking out the highest interest rates all the way down to the smallest. So that saves you the most money. But the debt snowball is more psychological. And so if you have those quick wins, then you're like, oh, I could do this. I could do this. Like, this is great. Like, let's keep going. And so that's why I say a combination is typically the best route to go. And that's, eventually me and my clients get there. Like, we'll start off with the debt snowball just so they can see that they can do it, get the momentum going. And then depending on their debt makeup, we might switch to the avalanche.
Okay. All right. Philly Chuck, what's up, Philly Chuck? Says, where's the main chat? You're in it. You're in the main chat. All right. About the Wallet says, what is the money life hack you use that people should try? Good question.
I don't know if y'all like my answer, but budget, because that is a life hack. I can promise you that you will give yourself a raise without asking for one at work, and you will be more aware of how you're spending your money, and then you can see if it aligns with anything. Like I love to tell this story because it's crazy and it's so true. But I had a client and she had $10,000 of credit card debt, and she was going out to eat with her friends and, alcohol, all that stuff, spending $800 a month. She didn't know because she never tracked it until we started working together. Once we started tracking it, she said, well, dang, like $800, that's a lot. Like, I could just put half of that towards the credit card and make bigger headway. And so that is a major money life hack that a lot of people don't utilize. And even if you are doing well, like to the point where you don't, you're not worried about bills and debt and all that other stuff, it still helps the budget, because then you can start saying, okay, well, now instead of this money going towards debt, what kind of investments am I putting it in? Or what am I saving up for the next property? That type of it, like it is so helpful across all like pay ranges, demographics, all of that. If you know how your money is flowing, there's so many things you can do, and it doesn't matter where you are, there's always a way you can improve. So, yeah.
Love it. Love it. Now, before we lose too many of y'all, any of y'all, I want y'all to do me a favor. I want y'all to go on over to Money Talk with Tiff, her YouTube page. Let's get her to 1,000 subs, y'all. Can we do that? So be sure to share this out. Twitter it. Is that even a word?
It is tonight.
Twitter it. I'm making stuff up like I'm Alan Jesse. So make sure y'all going over and subscribe to Money Talk with Tiff.
Oh,
All right, just a few more,
sure.
and we will get out of here. All right, what was your favorite side hustle? Another great question, Anthony.
The one I'm doing now, but now it's a whole business. But it started as a side hustle. So Money Talk with Tiff was a side hustle. When I was working in corporate, this was my after work, staying up late. Let me do something fun. That's what Money Talk with Tiff was. So that was my favorite side hustle. Now it's turned my main hustle. But let's see. Outside of that,
Making candles,
making
making
soap.
socks, making
Making
soap.
soap, yeah.
It's so bitty.
I would say making soap because I still do that occasionally. And like I said, I wanted it to stay a hobby. That's why I don't sell it like that. But making soap is definitely my hobby. That's like what I do when I want to just cool off, have some me time, get into something nerdy real quick. I'll make some soap and call
Is
it
it
a day.
meditative for you?
I think so. And I feel like that's why I like to cook too, because it's similar. Like you have to measure out stuff, you have to make sure it's right or it won't come out right. And so it becomes kind of like a meditation, honestly. So anytime I'm in the kitchen, that's what I tell people. Anytime I'm in the kitchen, so whether it's cooking, whether it's baking, whether it's making soap, that's kind of a meditative practice. So yeah,
Gotcha,
I would say that's
gotcha,
my favorite.
gotcha. Come on about that wallet.
He said that last time.
Call that man Big Daddy, okay? You got jokes. What's the best habit? What is the best habit to have to pay down debt? I think I've asked that question already, but give it to him. What's your why?
Drum roll. Budget. But seriously though, that is definitely the best habit to have because you can make sure it flows to the debt. Like that's what gosh, like between budgeting and your why, those are the two things that you have to have in order to make that type of headway. Like if you're sitting there like, oh, I want to pay off 50,000, you have to have those two things. You have to. And then I'm gonna also add goals. Like you have to have it. And they have to be like it's not enough to just say, oh, I want to pay off debt. Oh, I'm gonna pay off debt by XYZ in this amount of time. Those are the three things that you have to do whenever you're trying to pay off debt aggressively. Now if you're comfortable with status quo and you just going with the flow and paying it off as it goes, they'll give you the thing in the mail where it says if you keep paying the minimum, it'll be like 11 years or something like that. I mean, if that's cool with you, that's cool with you, but if you want to be really aggressive, you have to have those three things. It's like a recipe. And
Gotcha.
you can't fail because it's a plan. As long as you stick to the plan, you got it.
Gotcha. All right, so all the money nerds are like default. I don't know why we couldn't think of it at the time.
I know.
It's all good. It's holding yourself accountability. I agree. Totally agree.
Yep. And if you can't hold yourself accountable, get help. So, for instance, when I was doing mine, guess what was my accountability partner? My blog. I was like, ooh, I'm going to make this announcement that this is my goal. And if I don't make it, people are going to be looking at me like I'm crazy because I've been blogging about this for years. And so my blog was my accountability partner. And now, like, I'm other people's accountability partner. So, yeah.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll put out there, I want to get debt free. I'm really more concerned about financial independence, but it's a mix of both for me. BOAF, both for
Both
me.
of them. But yeah, definitely put it out there. I'll tell you that was very helpful for me, keeping me focused. Because I'm like, I don't want to put this out there and then I don't do it. And then people are like, like looking at me.
What you doing?
Right.
Yeah, that's a fact. All right, Exploreson says, what type of budgets do you like most? Zero base, pay yourself first, etc., etc. What you got?
It depends. So personally, I like zero based. So like my personal budget, that's what it is. With my business budget, it is pay yourself first. So it's more like the profit first kind of uh, variation of profit first. I don't go all in with that, but I do pay myself first. So with my business budget, is pay yourself first. With my personal budget, is zero based. And just to go over what zero based is, that means that every single dollar has a purpose before it even hits your account. And so that's kind of what I like to do. And so I use YNAB now. Used to be on every dollar, but now I'm on YNAB. And I like YNAB because it's kind of like every dollar on steroids. Like it has way more functionality. And I also like that you cannot budget, like you can't assign money if it's not there, which is very cool. Because a lot of times, we're assigning money to different budget line items. And what if that money doesn't come in, especially as a full time entrepreneur? With YNAB, I assign it as it comes in. And so I can look at a glance like, oh, I'm good for this month, that type of thing. So, yeah.
And for everybody that's running, what in the world is YNAB? YNAB is why you need a budget.
You need a budget. Yes.
Oh, right. You need a budget.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yes, it is. All right. So Big Daddy Still Rocks says just subbed. I'm gonna be in your comments. So I think you just robbed me a Big Daddy. Now you gotta give him a Big Daddy. Just gotta. You
Thank you, Big Daddy. No, I was kidding. It's after 9, y'all.
It's only entertainment.
Oh, that was good.
All right. So Anthony says about that Wallace says, there was like, okay, got you right. Both.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So y'all know what sounds will be programmed next.
Both.
BOAF. All right. What is your favorite dish to make? Oh, man. Come on. I told you I ain't no videos yet. We're talking about food. What is it, though?
So what I usually sell plates on is curry chicken.
Stop. You sell plates?
I told you that. That's one of my side hustles sometimes. Like that's very occasionally. But yeah, I would sell plates locally, and people are still waiting for me to come out with the curry plates again. But like I said, it's very sporadic.
Maybe it's because I'm hungry that part just kind of went over my head because I would have definitely clued in on that. The universe was looking out for me. The universe was definitely looking out for me. Jeez,
so yeah, I would say that would be my favorite dish to make: curry chicken, rice and peas, and I usually do cabbage with it. So yeah. If y'all are ever in North Carolina in Greensboro, let me know, and I'll make sure I make some curry for y'all.
I'm really hungry.
Yeah, Anthony's probably like, "You're welcome. Glad I could be of assistance."
Jeez. Please.
That is funny.
Well, all right. Listen, I appreciate everybody here. Thank you for joining us again, Tiffany. I need you to come back more because I don't talk enough about budgeting. I don't talk enough about any of that stuff because I'm kind of like a zero base / pay yourself first type of guy. And I don't know. I've done shows on it, but I feel like it needs more attention because everybody else is about glitz and glam, but it's these fundamentals that will really save your life, and people don't realize it.
And that is my zone of nerdiness. So, by all means.
Now, this is a great question. Big Daddy Still Rocks. Do you think there's still room for more financial educators on YouTube? I think about it, but it's a lot of work, and you guys have a ton of vids already out. So the answer is yes, but you got to be good. You got to promise to be integral and have lots of character.
Yeah.
We don't need no more scammers. What I mean by scammers, not saying that you'll be a scammer, Big Daddy, but those folks who are only in it to try to get a buck out of somebody. That's what we don't need. If you're going to do it, listen, we can all make money. I'm a black capitalist, so I believe in making money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but do it with integrity. That's all. And then I would say, yeah, because everybody is going to have their own unique taste, style, delivery,
Mhm.
and it's all valuable. What I might say may not reach a person. We might say the same exact thing. You need a budget. And when Big Daddy says it, it's like, oh, Big Daddy said I need a budget. So I'm going to get me a budget. What you got on that, Tiffany?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I mean, we all started from somewhere, right? So even if we do have a lot of videos out, we all started from one. So don't let that deter you. And then also, definitely what Kamari said about we need more people out here spreading good knowledge. There's a lot of misinformation out here, and we are all
So much.
trying to fight against the misinformation. So if you can help in the fight, no, I'm just kidding. Sound like a politician, but if you can help, that would be great, and greatly appreciated. There's so much space, and like Kamari said, your voice is unique, and so don't feel like, here we go, because I like using analogies. Let's think about the bread aisle, okay? So bread is bread. It's flour, it is yeast, it is water, it is like all those things, right? But the bread aisle has a lot of different loaves from a lot of different companies, and most of them are the exact same thing. But guess what? They all have space on the aisle. They all have their customers that come to their bread. Now, granted, I'm kind of brand agnostic. I go with whatever's on sale. But, there's people that only buy Nature's Own. There's people that only buy Wonder Bread. They are all bread, which is at the basic level, water, flour, yeast, whatever. But there's room for it all. And so just keep that in mind. Don't worry about what other people are doing, because you're going to be very different. And nothing in personal finance is new. Like, none of these ideas are groundbreaking. Like, all of this stuff has been said before. Everything I've said tonight, somebody else has probably said it before. Everything Kamari says, somebody else has probably said it before.
Hey, I'm original now. What you talking about? What you talking about?
You're original in your delivery and who you are. But a lot of the stuff has already been said. So with that being said, it's the personality and it's the person that brings it to life. So
Facts.
yeah, that's all I have
Facts.
to say on that.
The other thing I would say too, Big Daddy, you got me calling you Big Daddy now. Let me find out, Big Daddy, can you do you barbecue? I need to know, because the name Big Daddy just is synonymous with barbecue, and I'm hungry, so I'm just thinking about all that. But I'll say this too: you don't have to just do video. You can write, you can do podcasts, you can do, like you said, YouTube, but you can do TikTok. Shout out to Marquia the Money Plug, who's like got TikTok on lock, right? You can do Instagram. Like, there's so many things you can do, and there's so many ways you can do it. So no, there is a need. As long as we got scammers and people who are going to overspend on Christmas and the holidays, you will be needed, sir. Yes. So Big Daddy Finance, that's a whole thing.
I know that sounds catchy, actually.
I need my royalty though, sir.
Me too.
Or at least give me a plate,
Nah, I need royalties.
Listen, I can need royalties. You can barter some food with me. Now, if it's not good though, because everybody say they mama food is good, and then when you discover they putting raisins in the potato salad, then it's a problem.
Stop, not raisins in the potato salad. Whose mom is you around? No, I was kidding.
We saying that a lot now.
But yeah. Oh yeah, A&T's homecoming. That just happened. It gets crazy here. I won't be out in the streets.
Might have to get you a food truck.
People been saying that, like, when are you going to open up a food truck or a restaurant or something? But cooking is a hobby, though, and I want to keep it a hobby.
I get that.
Yeah, when you create businesses out of some stuff, it just doesn't become enjoyable anymore, and I don't want cooking to be that. So
I got that. I got it. Then you said we all going to your crib for the cookout.
Let me know. I do big pots.
Okay. All right. Can I bring it to go plate too? You know,
Sure.
that's the thing.
I got to go plates.
All right. So About the Wallet made a suggestion to you, Big Daddy. You can do Big Daddy's money tip of the day. Well, I add the Big Daddy on there, but do a 1 day money tip definition. So Big Daddy's money tip of the day. That could be a video series. It's catchy. You can design. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff around there.
Big Daddy Finance.
There you go. All right, Chad says you're the second person I heard to give the same info instead of bread. It was cereal. Yeah.
See, and that goes right back to what we were just saying. Nothing is new. Even if you feel like it's groundbreaking or whatever, somebody has said it before.
Somebody said it before. All right, we're going to wrap up, y'all. Yeah, appreciate you, Big Daddy. You come through every week, so appreciate you. All right, on that Kamari be comfortable saying it. Oh, my God.
Anthony be trolling.
He be bad trolling, too.
Oh, this is fun.
Definitely fun. Listen, y'all, we appreciate you all. Tiffany, where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me moneytalkwitht.com. That is my home base, where you can find the blog, the podcast, all that good stuff. And the podcast is Money Talk with Tiff, wherever you're listening to this one or wherever you like to listen. YouTube channel, Money Talk with Tiff. And that's just how to find me. Oh, and social media at moneytalkwitht.com. So, I mean, not .com, at moneytalkwitht. See, it's getting late, y'all. It's getting late. At Money Talk with T on all platforms.
All right, so in closing, y'all, I want to leave y'all with a prayer. This is a prayer that always moves me, has moved me for quite some time, from Herschel Ali. And I think it's a simple prayer that we can all put into use. I say it often. Let me put this up here. Oops, wrong screen. And
I remember I was on Tremaine. I was doing like a couple of scenes here and there, you know, and I was in a place, at least where I was just really hungry to do more, you know, and more fulfilling work, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember she says to me, her name's Debbie Young, and she said to me, Mahershala, you ask God to guide you to your excellence. And I've been praying that like almost every, you know, it always pops up for me. And I felt like that moment right there was, and I think for so many people, whatever your path is, whatever your passion is, that like we all just want to be guided to our excellence. You know, that place within us. And people label it different things.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who are atheists, there's people who are agnostic or whatever,
Right.
Muslim, Jew, whatever.
Right.
But I think for me, it was, I just want to be fulfilled. I want to be holistically, but I want to be guided to my excellence. And so I think in that moment, I felt like it was a prayer that got answered. You know,
Standing there.
not that I have ever prayed for a trophy in my life,
Okay.
but that
excellence
moment
concept
symbolized an answered prayer,
Yes, sir.
and that you were on this path
Yes, sir.
to like, you keep working. Like,
Yes, sir.
okay, now keep working.
Right.
And this is a symbol of that prayer that's been answered.
Right.
Now you keep working towards your excellence.
so y'all, again, remember to ask God, ask the universe, whatever you believe in, to guide you to your excellence. And while you're doing that, remember, faith without works is dead. All right, so we can pray and work at the same time. But again, I thank all of you for being here. Thank you for being at the Finance Rebel Show. We will be back, working on getting back to more regular routine. Got a lot of content ideas, but just haven't had the time to get here. But we'll be back every Wednesday. You have my promise on that. So I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. So long.
Bye.